coming up on Lawmakers. Legislation passed by a Senate committee would require a parent or legal guardian to sign a consent for a minor to have an abortion. Supporters say the legislation closes the in loco parentis loophole. A bill that encourages schools to post historical documents such as the U.S. Constitution and the national motto, "In God We Trust," passes the Senate. And interim state Democratic Party Chair Bobby Kahn levels ethics allegations against the Senate Majority Leader. Those stories and more are coming up next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Monday, February 2nd. Here are your hosts, Gerald Bryant and Nwandi Lawson.
Good evening, everyone. The state Senate was expected to consider two of Governor Perdue's education bills today, but concerns about weather condition postponed those discussions.
Instead, the Senate and the House both passed other education-related legislation and other bills dealing with such varied topics as hunting and cosmetology.
We will have highlights for those bills coming up, but first, our top story, parental consent for abortion. Legislation that changes the language about who must be notified or who can give permission for a minor to receive an abortion passed the Senate Judiciary Committee this afternoon. David Zelski joins us live from the Capitol with details on that story. David.
Well, thanks, Gerald. It's the part of the current law that has the term in loco parentis, which legally means a child who has been taken into a family and treated as one of their own. But Senate Bill 240's sponsor, Senator Ralph Hudgens, says this part of the law leaves a loophole where, for instance, an older boyfriend is coming in with his girlfriend who's a minor and saying he's her loco parentis, and the abortion goes ahead and takes place.
What is happening is you've got the 25-year-old man that's impregnated a 17-year-old girl, and he says, you need to get an abortion, and we don't need to tell your mom and daddy about this. We need to go, and I'll stand in as your parent, as your in locos parentis. He could be coercing her into having that abortion through any means of bodily threat, threat of harm. And so we just need to take that out. For an unemancipated teenage girl to have an abortion, we need these things to happen in this bill as was originally written up, but we don't need for some guy that is responsible for the act to be standing in for as her parent.
We have a law that's been in place for 13 years. It's been working. There is no minor in Georgia who can receive an abortion without proof of notification to a parent or a guardian or person standing in loco parentis or going to court to receive a judicial bypass. Now, the purpose of that judicial bypass process is not to find out why she doesn't want to tell her parents. It's to determine, for the court to have an opportunity to determine whether the minor is mature enough on her own to make the decision whether or not to receive an abortion, or alternatively, the court can determine that the abortion is in her best interest.
Now, despite arguments from those outside the committee against any changes in the law, the bill passed unanimously and heads to the Senate floor. Reporting live, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
Thank you very much, David.
The state Senate today passed a bill that encourages schools to post historical documents in school buildings or classrooms. Among the documents listed in the American Heritage and Education Act are the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the national motto, "In God We Trust." Senate President Pro Tem Eric Johnson spoke for Senate Bill 394.
It is permissive. Local school boards may allow and encourage any teacher or administrator to post or use or read the historic documents of our founding fathers. A list of them are in the bill. I'm referring to this committee substitute on the green sheet. The second thing it does is that if you're going to teach these documents that there is no censorship, some teachers are afraid if they refer to our Creator, or if they refer to religion or God, that they might somehow get in trouble. This bill says there is no censorship. You are permitted, if you want, to use these documents.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman yield?
I yield.
My understanding of the new proposed curriculum for our school systems would involve the elimination of history pre-1850 from certain curriculums that we have in this public school system. Is that correct?
I do not believe that is correct. I believe what the debate is, and I'm concerned about it myself, is that certain parts of our history are being removed from the high school curriculum to be focused on in middle school curriculum and trying to cover different subjects at different age groups. And I'm not an educator. I am concerned about what I hear, and we'll be looking into it. It's right now open for public comment.
Senate Bill 394, the American Heritage and Education Act, passed by committee substitute. The vote was 47-5, and it goes to the House.
Meanwhile, Senator Casey Cagle's resolution proposing local sales taxes for education passed the Senate today. Cagle said Senate Resolution 580 offers three options when a special local option sales tax can roll back local property taxes.
Right now, in the E-SPLOST that is currently at the discretion of local school boards to pass, they have the option, or actually have one option, and that option is to pass the E-SPLOST, the 1% sales tax, to be levied for 100% of school construction or debt reduction. That's the only method by which the 1% tax could be utilized. I want to create two additional options. The second option would be that 75% of that E-SPLOST could be utilized for school construction, and 25% could be used for M&O, maintenance and operation, with a dollar-for-dollar rollback against property taxes. The third option that the school board would have at their discretion would be to utilize the 1% in its entirety for M&O rollback against property taxes.
This is a proposed amendment to the state constitution. It passed 49-3, and it heads for the House.
The interim chairman of the state's Democratic Party today called on Senator Bill Stevens to answer questions about alleged ethics violations. Bobby Kahn claims that the work Stevens does as executive vice president of a public relations firm lends itself to conflict of interest.
Hazlett-Slorell's client list is full of major companies with a serious interest in what happens in the Georgia Senate, and they're listed right here. Some of those include ACS, Georgia Pacific, Bell South, Coca-Cola, and UPS. The Hazlett-Slorell client list even includes a state agency, the Georgia Department of Transportation, over whose budget Senator Stevens has major influence.
Now, Mr. Kahn also said that Senator Stevens has failed to file an amendment requested by the State Ethics Commission.
It has been over 3.5 months since Senator Stevens' legal team produced a report claiming to account for $32,000 in excess loan payments that he collected from his campaign. It has been nearly a month and a half since the Ethics Commission ordered Senator Stevens to file amendments to correct the false accounting. Yet throughout this time, not a single amendment has been filed. Keep in mind that Senator Stevens failed to file as many as 3 of the required reports in the year 2000 alone. And I might add, given that he failed to disclose by his own account $32,000 worth of expenditures, and he has numerous other errors on the report, he ought to be looking at an ethics fine of tens of thousands of dollars, even from a stacked ethics commission.
Now, Ethics Commission Executive Secretary Teddy Lee told me today that one of Senator Stevens' attorneys has requested the opportunity to review the amendment with the commission before filing it. Mr. Lee also said the Ethics Commission does not plan to hold any official hearings on the matter until after the session.
Senate Majority Leader Bill Stevens was quick to react to the charges made by the interim state Democratic Party chairman. Stevens labeled the charges a partisan political attack.
The only substantive charge that was made last June against me, the Ethics Commission found that there was no probable cause to move forward on that back in December, I guess. And I think that's clear. It was also clear that voluntarily we said that we had found some mistakes and that we're going to file amendments about those mistakes.
Senator Stevens said the only delay in amending his campaign filing documents was at the request of the Ethics Commission, and the Majority Leader accused Bobby Kahn of getting the facts wrong.
He said there was some kind of order issued by the Ethics Commission in December. He needs to do his homework. There was no such order issued at all, period.
As to Kahn's charges that there may be a potential conflict of interest with Stevens' role as a majority leader and his job as a vice president of the Hazlett-Slorell public relations firm, Senator Stevens quoted an employment agreement with his firm.
At no time, either directly or indirectly, will I be allowed to work on anything having to do with state-funded kinds of things, nor will I ever be able to receive any compensation for that.
And Senator Stevens said he signed that agreement in May of 2002. Then the Senate Majority Leader had some pointed comments about Bobby Kahn, the interim Democratic State Party chairman.
I think there's some kind of bizarre flattery that goes along with being attacked by political hacks. He's kind of like Kermit the Frog on methamphetamines. He's just always filing charges, and it was the governor last week, it's me this week, I don't know who it'll be later this week or next week. Bobby Kahn defines arrogance, and the very fact that he is now running for the Democratic Party chair is testimony enough that that ship's going to be run aground again.
At today's news conference, we asked Senator Stevens about the controversy over the word evolution being left out of a proposed biology curriculum for Georgia's schools. Stevens said he agreed with the governor, who this past weekend was quoted as saying the word evolution should remain in the curriculum.
I support what the governor said this weekend. I think that the superintendent of education has probably been a victim of some less than adequate staff work. I think they ought to just drop this and drop it now.
State School Superintendent Kathy Cox said last week that the biology curriculum omitting the word evolution was a draft document that is still subject to review.
In other news, Senator David Adelman is proposing legislation that would reduce the speed limit for tractor-trailer trucks traveling on Georgia highways. Chrissy Thrasher has more on this effort to increase safety for drivers. She's live at the Capitol. Chrissy.
Well, Gerald, the proposal is called Cullom's Law and is named after a young man who lost his life in a collision with a tractor-trailer truck on a Georgia highway. If passed, the legislation would set the speed limit for semi-trucks to 55 miles per hour.
We're always looking for ways to improve safety on our highways. What we do know is that more than 200 people a year in Georgia die in fatal collisions that involve large trucks. And the vast majority of those cases involve the front of the truck and the rear of the car. There are some studies that have taken a look at this issue, and many experts believe that a speed limit differential will reduce the number of these types of fatal collisions.
In addition to Cullom's Law, Senator Adelman also wants to create a joint study committee whose focus would be improving the safety on Georgia's roads,
which would allow us to have 5 serious hearings over the summer, bringing in experts from all around the country to look at ways that we can improve highway safety. That might include speed differentials, it might include certain lane discipline, or other measures. We're not going to prejudge it. We're going to have an open mind and see where the facts lead us.
And if the bill passes, Georgia will join 11 other states with similar speed limit laws. Reporting live, I'm Chrissy Thrasher for Lawmakers.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Well, a bill may soon surface in the House of Representatives that could make it possible for undocumented immigrant workers to obtain driver's licenses. Supporters of the legislation rallied at the Capitol today. Lawmakers Jesse Freeman was there, and he joins us from the Capitol with more. Jesse.
Well, in Wandy, members of the Hispanic community and Atlanta business leaders were in attendance as Representative Barbara Mobley announced her intention to introduce a bill to allow undocumented immigrant workers to obtain driver's license. She criticized the insurance industry for not supporting the bill, which will serve as a companion to Senate Bill 181, authored by Senator Zamarripa.
We want to improve public safety. We want to improve the way people get to work, and we want to improve the security of our country. How do we do that? The first thing we do is we take a cue from the President of the United States, and we begin an honest and open dialogue about the fact that the United States economy is dependent upon immigrant labor.
Representative Pedro Marin also voiced his support for the legislation. Like Zamarripa, he stressed the safety benefit that the licensing process would bring and added that his take comes partly from experience.
We have to teach the community how to drive in the roads of Georgia. Myself, I had the experience when I came to this country that I failed my first exam because I thought I knew how to drive, and I failed my first exam. So it's really very important that we teach the rules of the road.
And both Marin and Zamarripa mentioned the security benefits of the process. Zamarripa's bill specifies only workers from member countries of the Free Trade Area of the Americas would be eligible for a driver's license. Reporting live, I'm Jesse Freeman for Lawmakers.
Thank you, Jesse.
The House today adopted a measure allowing the Department of Motor Vehicle Safety to distribute information about rule changes on the Internet instead of in print. House Bill 1177 also allows the DMVS to eliminate the practice of maintaining a file of citations issued to non-resident drivers. Some legislators wondered whether this would create a loophole for undocumented workers.
Isn't it true that I want to help our troopers out in any way we can, but also have a large population of illegal immigrants, at least in the district that I represent, and there's a great concern about how will if they have a driving violation, how will that be kept up with now? Is this reducing that?
This doesn't have anything to do with illegal alien drivers. If you're an illegal alien in this country, you might have a driver's license somewhere else, but you certainly don't have one in the state of Georgia.
The House approved House Bill 1177 by a vote of 165 to 0. It now goes to the Senate.
Well, the debate over the war in Iraq continued on the House floor today. Representative Bob Holmes defended himself against Representative Earl Earhart, who said last week that Holmes considers Saddam Hussein a hero. Then veteran legislator Representative Tom Buck called on his colleagues to remember decorum as they debate the issue.
And one of the lies he said was, I consider Saddam Hussein a hero. And then he did something even worse. He used President Bush and the troops who served, and have been in battle in the same word, same sentence. He referred to both of them as heroes. George Bush is not a hero. Those individuals who serve, like my brother and my cousins and my friends, are in fact the heroes.
I think it's fine for us to disagree, but not when it evokes character assassination. I would respectfully urge all of you, all of us, the members, to be respectful to and of each other when making remarks from this well. Let's try to take the high road and act with dignity. Thank you.
The House agreed today that encouraging retired teachers to return to the classroom would help local systems fill positions. House Bill 366 would allow teachers who retired through the end of last year to return to work without penalty to the retirement or pension benefits. Representative Brooks Coleman explains.
And what it basically does, it allows, with the teacher shortage we have throughout the state, and with the problem we have finding teachers and school employees, it just simply allows a teacher to retire. After they retired, if there's a need in a system, the local systems can employ these teachers to come back and teach a year, 2 years, what they need, without losing their retirement or without a penalty.
The House approved a committee substitute to House Bill 366. The vote was 168 to 0.
In other education news, the House today voted to allow districts to determine how frequently local school councils meet, as well as who serves on them. The A+ Education Reform Act of 2000 mandates a meeting schedule and the number of council members. Representative Gail Buckner explained why systems would benefit from more flexibility.
Because in a larger school system may desire more people on their school council, but a smaller school and school system may in fact have a hard time even getting 7 people to serve on the council. So this piece of legislation would simply allow for the local folks to better reflect what it is that they want to do.
A committee substitute to House Bill 1208 passed by a vote of 169 to 0. It now moves to the Senate.
Also in the House today, the House agrees that the State Environmental Protection Division should provide the public with statements of rationale before creating policy. House Speaker Pro Tem DeBose Porter said House Bill 242 would actually pave the way for additional lawsuits.
Let's say, for example, you're trying to regulate some byproduct of the poultry industry that you try to implement rules and regulations for, and you in fact do, that you didn't make the cattle industry or some other industry do. They felt that this would be an obstacle on equal protection grounds and a number of other grounds that would impede us being able to regulate in clean air and clean water, to do something a little more than perhaps the federal government would want you to do.
House Bill 242 passed the House by a vote of 131 to 33 and moves to the Senate.
Senators vote to revise a hunting bill they passed last year. In approving a deer hunting with dogs bill late in the 2003 session, Senator Tommy Williams said lawmakers upset some hunters by setting acreage limits. Williams said Senate Bill 406 will change that.
If you own the land, if it's your land, and you want to take a few beagles out on the weekend and hunt a branch, you can do that without having a minimal acreage. But if you have a club and you all lease land, then the minimal acreage needs to be 250 acres. The other thing that was done in last year's bill, it required a fee of $100 for a permit, which my folks were kind of upset about, and some of the others that represent the dog hunting areas. We eliminated that fee.
Senate Bill 406 passed by a vote of 50 in favor, 2 against. The measure goes to the House.
The Senate also passed a measure increasing hunting opportunities for quadriplegics. Senator David Schaefer spoke with Chris Snell, a Georgian who wasn't letting his injuries interfere with his love for hunting.
And he relearned how to hunt. He bought himself a hydraulic deer stand and a specially adapted firearm, and he hunts today. This bill, Senate Bill 430, extends hunting season for Chris Snell and other quadriplegics who hunt, allowing them to hunt on their own land during archery season. It gives them an opportunity to hunt a couple of weeks early before the cold sets in. It applies only to quadriplegics. It applies only to their private land. It does not raise the bag limit or the number of deer that they can kill during the season. It simply allows them a couple extra weeks to hunt before the cold sets in.
Senate Bill 430 also allows for the use of specially adapted firearms for quadriplegics. The measure passed without opposition and goes to the House.
Prisoners who receive cosmetology training are one step closer to being licensed. The House today passed House Bill 1175, which would require the State Board of Cosmetology to test any applicant who has completed all requirements, even those who are incarcerated. Representative Jeanette Jameson said the current board is refusing to do so. She introduced an amendment to raise the number of board members from 9 to 11. In addition to the 9 members appointed by the governor, 1 member would be appointed by the House Speaker and 1 by the Lieutenant Governor. Representative Jameson said it was time to shake up the board.
When a group of adults that are charged with this kind of responsibility won't even sit down and negotiate with another group of adults, we obviously have got a rather closed-minded attitude, and I think it's time maybe we shake up the board a little bit and add a couple of members, frankly.
Would you further yield?
Certainly.
How are they compensated, the members of these boards? Do you know?
I have no idea, but they are. I'm sure they get the same kind of compensation for travel and so forth that we get.
Are they paid other than per diem, or are they paid?
I don't think so, no.
So if we adopt the amendment, though, it would increase the per diem charges that we're currently paying?
It would increase it somewhat, but not enough to require a fiscal note.
The House agreed to the amendment and passed House Bill 1175 by a vote of 164 to 3.
Meanwhile, water quality is an issue that weighs heavily on Georgia. The Senate Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee discussed a bill today that will help fund an incentive program to improve water quality. Senate Bill 436 will create a means for the State Soil and Water Conservation Service to obtain state funds to supplement federal funds for conservation programs. The bill will not require the state to designate funding from this year's budget, but it will allow the state to allocate money from discretionary funds to the program.
We currently implement these programs with federal monies. It's called an EQIP program, but it's not enough money to do what we need to do. So in the future, if revenues pick up and we have those discretionary funds that we could put to a program that would assist our farmers and others in conserving surface water and controlling their waste, animal waste, and those things that are beneficial to all of us in regards to water quality.
Senate Bill 436 was given a due pass and moves on to the Senate Rules Committee.
Auto accidents involving teens take nearly 200 lives each year. In fact, a 17-year-old died in a crash in Roswell last weekend. The Safe America Foundation is a nonprofit group that says that number could be reduced by mandating driver's education classes. They were at the Capitol today to promote their program. Lawmakers Jesse Freeman has the story.
Safe America uses driving demos and simulators to teach teens to drive responsibly. They brought some of those machines to the Capitol to promote their program and some of their legislative concerns. They want to bring driver's ed to every teenager in the state, and along with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, they want pickup trucks included in seatbelt laws.
We believe that if that happens, we will save up to 80 lives a year here in Georgia.
Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor, who worked to pass suspension for reckless teen drivers, wants to fight House Bill 185, which he says repeals his own legislation.
Last year in the House, there were only 2 dissenting votes to do away with the hard suspension when kids have moving violations. That's the heart of the law. It is the part of the law that is saving lives.
And Representative Roger Bruce says it's time for a driver's ed requirement for young people seeking a license.
We have a crisis on our roads, and there's no reason at all why we should not have mandatory driver's education in this state.
The Safe America Foundation has a 5-year plan that would bring affordable driver's education to every teen in the state. It involves taking road simulators like these on the road.
We're looking at purchasing an RV camper and converting it for the use as a training lab. We think this is unique. We think the nice thing about it is we can reach 159 counties easily in an RV camper, and it doesn't require us to build a fixed location where kids have to come.
Pagano says Safe America can raise half of the money in the corporate world and wants the state to match. Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm Jesse Freeman.
Governor Sonny Perdue spoke to a crowd of over 400 today at the 28th Annual Georgia Association of Educational Leaders Winter Conference held in Cobb County. He focused on positive changes that can be made to help Georgia's children despite economic hardship. David Zelski has that story.
The Georgia Association of Educational Leaders were expecting to discuss money, and that's what they got. Governor Perdue focused on better ways to allocate funds and to motivate children.
We are not going to move this monolithic thing we call public education in Georgia or this country in one fell swoop, in one bound. We're going to make steady, progressive progress.
The General Assembly's had good leadership and made some tough cuts, but they have to understand that even with flexibility, there are going to be some tough cuts made locally, and that could be in reducing numbers of teachers or increasing class size, and that's going to be tough locally.
The governor announced that later this week he will form a Quality Basic Education, or QBE, funding task force, whose job is to help allocate funds and prioritize student needs. He also hopes to increase financial flexibility on a local level.
We're thrilled that there's going to be a wage task force, and we hope that wage task force will look at the actual cost of providing education for youngsters. And we also are excited about his plan for increased flexibility. If we're going to have to make some hard budget decisions at the local level, local boards and superintendents and other administrators need the flexibility to move money around as appropriate. So we're pleased with the fundamental portions of the governor's package.
Well, coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, the Senate is expected to vote on 2 of the governor's education bills, and Georgia's firefighters are honored at the Capitol. We'll have those stories and more tomorrow night on Lawmakers. And for those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch Lawmakers online. Visit our website at gpb.org. Lawmakers programs are streamed live, then archived on our site every night that we're on the air. Now, stay tuned for Find with the Keno Brothers of Antiques Roadshow fame. That program is next here on Georgia Public Broadcasting.
And that is our broadcast for this, the 10th legislative day of the Georgia General Assembly. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Nwandi Lawson. For all of us here at Lawmakers, good night.
Good night.